Jay, and I approve this message. This is a...
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Dan F. Man, and you are now tuned into Expansion Pack here on DGTA TV. Glad to have you back. As you can see, I'm gonna get into some more of this fort. Turn my music down. Yeah, as you can see, I'm gonna get into some of this fort on y'all. Give me 1 second. Let me get myself squared away. Be right back. Alright, there we go. Now, so today on Expansion Pack, we're gonna be hitting our navigating our live series as usual on this beautiful Wednesday. Commercial.
Hey Meta, take a photo.
Now, the title for today's topic is, let me see. Hey, what's up, Zanita67? Good to have you in here. Hold on, I'm gonna tell you what. I just want to restate the topic for today. Is all. Give me 1 second. All right, there we go. All right, now today's topic is life's roadmap. You are here. Oh, look at that. My bad, I gotta see this picture. I'm so sorry, y'all, for being distracted. All right, so All right, so it is Life's Map. You are here. Now, today after we done with this, I want us to all come away with where we are with our life. And I got some great videos for us to listen to and for us to watch that are going to give us some guidance, or is going to be our frequently asked questions section of this talk for our Wednesdays in navigating our life. And it'll help give you a solid foundation when you're trying to answer that question of where you are in your life, with your life, doing with your life, all of the above. So let me go ahead and run our first video. Now, this is Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. They got 22.8 million subscribers, and this is their video, What Do Alien Civilizations Look Like? Now, let me pause this music. Now, I want you to pay attention. I want you to pay attention to this video, because it's going to give you some real, hold on, music. It's going to give you some real insight on where you are in your personal life. Forget about where we are as a civilization. Don't just watch it for that. That's not the reason why I'm technically playing it. I'm technically playing it for where you are in your life. But in order for you to find out where you are in your life, you got to know where we're at, period. So, enjoy.
The observable universe is a big place that's been around for more than 13 billion years. Up to 2 trillion galaxies made up of something like 20,000 billion stars surround our home galaxy. In the Milky Way alone, scientists assume there are some 40 billion Earth-like planets in the habitable zone of their stars. When we look at these numbers, it's hard to imagine that there is nobody else out there. It would change our perception of ourselves forever if we found others. Just knowing that this vast place is not dead would shift our perspective outwards and could help us get over our irrelevant quarrels. But before looking for our new best friends or worst enemies, we have a problem to solve. What are we actually looking for? In a universe that big and old, we have to assume that civilizations start millions of years apart from each other and develop in different directions and speeds. So, not only are we looking over distances of dozens to hundreds of thousands of light years, we're looking for a civilization ranging from cavemen to super advanced. So, we need a conceptual framework to enable us to think better thoughts that make us able to search better.
HoneyBook keeps your proposals,
Ah,
contracts,
hold
invoices,
on.
and payments all in one place. My name
Commercial.
is Laura Gomez, and
We
I
love
partner-
commercials, though.
Are there universal
us.
rules that intelligent species follow? Currently, our civilization sample size is only 1, so we may make incorrect assumptions based solely on ourselves. Still, better than nothing. We know that humans started out with nothing but minds and hands that could build tools. We know that humans are curious, competitive, greedy for resources, and expansionist. The more of these qualities our ancestors had, the more successful they were in the civilization building game. Being one with nature is nice, but it's not the path to irrigation systems or gunpowder or cities. So it's reasonable to assume that aliens able to take over their home planet also
right,
have
here we
these
go.
qualities. And if aliens have to follow the same laws of physics, then there is a measurable metric for progress: energy use. Human progress can be measured very precisely by how much energy we extracted from our environment and how we made it usable to do things. We started with muscles until we learned to control fire. Then we made machines that used kinetic energy from water and wind. As our machines got better and our knowledge of materials expanded,
All right,
we
here we
began
go.
to harness the concentrated energy from dead plants we dug up from the ground.
I hate when my glasses
As our
do
energy
this.
consumption grew exponentially, so did the abilities of our civilization. Between 1800 and 2015, population size had increased
All right, here we go.
sevenfold, while humanity was consuming 25 times more energy. It's likely that this process will continue into the far future. Based on these facts, scientist Nikolai Kardashev developed a method of categorizing civilizations from cave dwellers to gods ruling over galaxies. The Kardashev scale, a method of ranking civilizations by their energy use. The scale has been refined and expanded on over the decades, but in general it puts civilizations into 4 different categories. A Type 1 civilization is able to use the available energy of their home planet. A Type 2 civilization is able to use the available energy of their star and planetary system. A Type 3 civilization is able to use the available energy of their galaxy. A Type 4 civilization is able to use the available energy of multiple galaxies. These levels differ by orders of magnitude. It's like comparing an ant colony to a human metropolitan area. To ants, we are so complex and powerful, we might as well be gods. So to make the scale more useful, we need subcategories. On the lower end of the spectrum, there are Type 0 to Type 1 civilizations. Anything from hunter-gatherers to something we could achieve in the next few hundred years. These might actually be abundant in the Milky Way. But a civilization that is not actively transmitting radio signals into space might be as close as our nearest stellar neighbor, the Alpha Centauri system, and we would have no way of realizing they exist. But even if they transmitted radio signals like we do, it might not be very helpful. On an interstellar scale, humanity is practically invisible. Our signals may extend over an impressive 200 light-years, but this is only a tiny fraction of the Milky Way. And even if someone were listening, after a few light-years, our signals decay into noise, impossible to identify as the source of an intelligent species. Today, humanity ranks at about level 0.75. We have altered our planet. We've created huge structures, mined and stripped mountains, removed rainforests and drained swamps. We've created rivers and lakes and changed the composition and temperature of the atmosphere. If progress continues and we don't make Earth uninhabitable, we will become a full Type 1 civilization in the next few hundred years. Any civilization that becomes a Type 1 is bound to look outside because it's likely that it's still curious, competitive, greedy and expansionist. The next reasonable step towards transitioning to Type 2 is trying to alter and mine other planets and bodies. This might start with outposts in space, transition to infrastructure and industries near the home planet, move on to colonies, and end with terraforming other planets by changing their atmosphere, their rotation or position. As a civilization expands and uses more and more stuff and space, its energy consumption scales with them. So at some point, they may embark on the largest project a lower Type 2 civilization can take on, harnessing the energy of their star by building a Dyson swarm. Once this megastructure is finished, energy has become practically unlimited for molding the home system however they see fit. If they are still curious, competitive, greedy and expansionist, and now have complete control over their home system, stellar infrastructure in place, and the energy output of a star, the next frontier moves to other stars light years away. For a Type 2 civilization, the distance to other stars might feel like the distance between Earth and Pluto does to us today. Technically within reach, but only with immense investments in terms of time, ingenuity and resources. This begins their transition towards Type 3. This step is so far beyond us that it becomes hard to imagine what exactly these challenges will look like and how they'll be solved. Will they be able to find a solution to the vast distances and travel times of hundreds or thousands of years? Will they be able to communicate and keep a shared culture and biology between colonies light years apart? Or will they split into separate Type 2 civilizations? Maybe even different species? Are there deadly challenges between the stars? So the closer a species gets to Type 3, the harder it becomes to fathom what it might actually look like. They might discover new physics, may understand and control dark matter and energy, or be able to travel faster than light. We might be unable to grasp their motives, technology, and actions. Humans are the ants, trying to understand the galactic metropolitan area. A high Type 2 civilization might already consider humanity too primitive to even talk to. A Type 3 civilization might feel about as like we feel about the bacteria living on the anthill. Maybe they wouldn't even consider us conscious or our survival relevant. We could only pray that they're nice gods. But the scale doesn't necessarily end here. Some scientists suggest there might be Type 4 and Type 5 civilizations whose influence stretches over galaxy clusters or superclusters, structures comprising thousands of galaxies and trillions of stars. Ultimately, there might be a Type Omega civilization, able to manipulate the entire universe and possibly others. Type Omega civilizations might be the actual creators of our universe for reasons beyond our comprehension. Maybe they were just bored. As flawed as this classification may be, this thought experiment is already telling us interesting things. If our ideas about the nature of species that form interstellar civilizations is sort of correct, then we can be pretty sure that there are no civilizations of Type 3 and beyond near the Milky Way. Their influence would in all likelihood be so all-encompassing and their technology so far above our own that we couldn't miss them. The galaxy should flash with their activity in thousands of star systems. We should be able to see or detect their artifacts or movements between different parts of their empire. Even if a Type 3 civilization did exist in the past and died a mysterious death, we should be able to detect some of the remnants of their empire. But when scientists looked, they didn't find remnants of harvested stars, decaying megastructures, or scars of great interstellar wars. So they're very likely not out there and never were. In a sense, this is very sad, but also very reassuring. It leaves the galaxy to us and others similar to us. So the most promising civilizations to look for may be somewhere in the spectrum from Type 1.5 to Type 2.5. They wouldn't be too advanced to understand them and their motives. They may have finished their first megastructures, and they might be in the process of moving stuff between stars and transmitting enormous amounts of information into space by accident or on purpose. They would probably also look to the stars and look for others. Then again, maybe we've got it all wrong. Maybe progress to Type 2 does not mean expanding outwards, and humanity is still too immature to imagine otherwise. For now, all we really know is that we haven't seen anybody yet, but we've only just started looking.
Alright, so I hope y'all was able to hear all of that. So the reason I started off with that is because as a collective, that's where we are. We ain't even hit the Type 1 civilization, to whereas I'm working together with my brother and them to get the job done. So when I approach myself in that aspect or in that light, or I look at myself against that backdrop, what I start to see is, well, I have little to no knowledge of self. Now, is there knowledge of self available? Yes, very much so. I can go out and get it nowadays. But think about where we came from and not even having it. Any knowledge of self for anybody, or the knowledge of self was safeguarded through religion and spiritual practice and things in discipline, different disciplines, things of that nature. So knowledge of self was very limited outside of what you do day to day. And now let me bring that home to a more present moment or closer to myself. I personally have only been here for the last 30 whatever years, right? So I can only give you those references. And then when I start to educate myself about, dang, what's up with my glasses? And then when I start to educate myself about um, the different stuff that is here, was here before I got here, then I start to get a total picture of what it is I'm doing here, as well as where I'm at now in my life, as well as, you know, where I'm at living, and so on and so forth. So let me get another video in here for us, and I'm going to type this in: roadmap of life. Buddha. Let's see what the mystics have to say. Buddhism Guide to Reality. Great Maps Explain. Let's see.
To be honest, what I find really interesting about maps isn't how they map physical space, it's how they
There we go.
can change our view of the world. They can help us see things. To be honest, what I find really interesting about maps isn't how they map physical space, it's how they can change our view of the world. They can help us see things from different perspectives. And nowhere is this more true than in the maps that come from ancient cultures. In so many of these cultures, the line between art and map and diagram wasn't so crystallized like it is for us. And so religion, meaning, worldview, and space can all blend together in works that today we can only vaguely call maps. But one of these maps that I want to talk about today is called the Bhava Chakra, the Wheel of Becoming, or the Wheel of Samsara, that we see very widely in Tibetan and ancient Indian Buddhism. It's more what we call a cosmographic or cosmological map. It's a map that depicts something about how the universe works, how it's structured on a metaphysical and symbolic level. It's a map of the world we live in, and it mixes the spatial and the religious in a fascinating way.
Picture this. You're sitting at home alone watching YouTube videos, wondering why you can't find the motivation to do the things
Many of us are familiar with the basic history and tenets of Buddhism, but let's do a quick review. Buddha himself began the religion in the 6th century BC after his own search for enlightenment took him down a different path than the existing religious culture of the time. He lived in a time and place where people took rebirth for granted, as an accepted part of how the universe
Ashley
worked.
Gorley,
A universe in which your
joining me
endless
on
rebirths
TikTok.
were determined to some extent by
Try to give you a
actions
follow
that you took in
as soon
different
as I get a
lives.
chance.
This world of rebirth is called samsara. Buddha's experience brought him to a realization that there was a way to completely escape samsara, a way to stop rebirth and reach nirvana, a word that means extinguishment, symbolized as the blowing out of a candle. The idea of liberation from rebirth was already in the religious culture of the time, but Buddha had a slightly different take on things. Completely stepping outside of samsara and into nirvana was the whole goal of Buddhist practice. If you really dig into Buddhism, you'll find that it has a very complex and deep philosophy, and a highly detailed description of the world, of human minds, of rebirth, and, well, everything. The details have just grown over time, but even at the start, people asked a lot of difficult questions. One of the core subjects was just about how people were stuck in samsara in the first place, why they stay there, and why it seems so hard to get out.
I want to rewind
One of
some
Buddha's
of this.
disciples, Maudgalyayana, is said to have traveled psychically through many realms of rebirth, we'll get to those soon, and returned to describe them to people in detail, along with how you'd end up in one or another. And let's do a quick review. Buddha himself began the religion in the 6th century BC after his own search for enlightenment took him down a different path than the existing religious culture of the time. He lived in a time and place where people took rebirth for granted, as an accepted part of how the universe worked, a universe in which your endless rebirths were determined to some extent by actions that you took in different lives. This world of rebirth is called samsara. Buddha's experience brought him to a realization that there was a way to completely escape samsara, a way to stop rebirth and reach nirvana, a word that means extinguishment, symbolized as the blowing out of a candle. The idea of liberation from rebirth was already in the religious culture of the time, but Buddha had a slightly different take on things. Completely stepping outside of samsara and into nirvana was the whole goal of Buddhist practice. If you really dig into Buddhism, you'll find that it has a very complex and deep philosophy, and a highly detailed description of the world, of human minds, of rebirth, and, well, everything. The details have just grown over time, but even at the start, people asked a lot of difficult questions. One of the core subjects was just about how people were stuck in samsara in the first place, why they stay there, and why it seems so hard to get out. One of Buddha's disciples, Maudgalyayana, is said to have traveled psychically through many realms of rebirth, we'll get to those soon, and returned to describe them to people in detail, along with how you'd end up in one or another and what they were like. The idea was that he was teaching how karma worked and why you ultimately want to get to nirvana. When the Buddha heard about Maudgalyayana's teachings, he said that it was a good way to get across the message to everyday people. And so then he said that those teachings on the different kinds of rebirth, how we get stuck in them and how we get out of them, should be made into a big diagram, a wheel, and painted on the entrance of every monastery and temple to help teach whoever wanted to learn. That's the origin of this Bhava Chakra. The earliest example we still have is from Ajanta in India and was made sometime in the 4th or 5th century CE, about 1700 years ago. And it's suffered quite a bit over the years, but we do have many more examples from the centuries that follow, mainly from Tibet. And all of them have the same basic elements. So let's take a look. At first glance, we see this giant wheel, held by a pretty scary looking figure. There are a few things painted around or outside the wheel, and inside it there are different sections, emanating out from a central hub. All of these elements are in fact quite standardized, and the divisions within the wheel follow strict guidelines in terms of what they depict. One thing though, this definitely doesn't look like a map. It's not showing any land masses, mountains, oceans, or anything really geographical. But let me cook a little, and I'll explain why this isn't just a piece of art, but it's actually a map, even if it's very different from the ones we use every day. I mean, for one, there's a spatial element to the way this wheel is laid out. The wheel itself is samsara, the world of rebirth, the world we live in. And we're meant to follow the illustration from the center outwards. The same way the center serves as the hub of a wheel, which keeps the structure intact, so the center here is the metaphysical underpinning of samsara and rebirth. Without the problems at the core of the wheel, we could get out to nirvana like Buddha did. So those problems, right here at the core, are depicted as 3 animals. We have the pig, who's really the big one. He represents delusion and ignorance, never caring what he's eating or if it's clean or not. This is supposed to correspond to all of us, acting in ways that hurt ourselves and others because we don't really understand the interconnectedness of ourselves and the world. The other 2 animals, the snake and the rooster, represent aversion or anger and attachment or greed. The snake, anger, is quick to fury, striking at anything. The rooster, attachment, is so greedy for its mates that it'll fight to death to keep control over them. So these 3 elements, aversion, ignorance, and attachment, are called the 3 poisons. Buddhism says that in samsara, in this universe we live in, we're stuck with these all the time. These basic problems drive our actions and basically keep the engine of karma going by getting us to keep acting and desiring and causing problems, making lives of suffering and more rebirth. In the next section, we see this circle split into light and dark halves, with people climbing up on one side and going down on the other. If you've acted well, you go up to a better rebirth. Bad, and you go down to a worse rebirth. But no amount of acting good or bad is going to get you out of the cycle. You'll just keep going up and down forever. Now, a note, this isn't the same as the Christian idea of punishment and reward, though it can seem like it. The idea is that karma is like an impersonal force, like gravity, and it just moves you around. No one's judging you, but you do in a way suffer the consequences of your actions and your intentions. There's a spatial sense to this movement, up into better worlds and down into worse ones, and that's amplified in the next section of the wheel. Here we see different realms you can be born into. These are all existing at once in our universe, but they're different types of lives. This is one way that the Baba Chakra is a map. It maps out how these different realms fit onto our experience of life. So let's look at these realms.
I was robbed. They tried to run me over with a getaway car. He almost killed me right over here. He was laughing as he fractured my skull.
Well, down here there's hell, not where you want to be. Buddhist hell is rough. There's hot Buddhist hell, there's cold Buddhist hell, there's boiling, smashing, screaming, blizzards, impaling. You suffer immensely, continually, so you don't even have any space to feel anything but suffering. Now, you don't stay here for eternity, but you do stay here for a very, very long span of time, many millions of eons perhaps. In some ways, that actually feels more brutal than eternity. But once you get out of hell, because there's nowhere to go but up, you move into the realm of the hungry ghosts. It's a little bit better. The most famous incarnation that you have here is as a being with a huge appetite and a gaping belly, but with a tiny pinhole mouth. So you can never eat enough and you're constantly starving. Maybe this is because you were greedy or gluttonous or something like that in another life.
I think I can make it over there.
From there, we move into a couple of realms that we are familiar with. There's the animal realm, which is shown as a place of fear and hunger, but some awareness. Animals are always chasing and looking for food and hiding, but they're totally sentient beings. Then we have the human realm, our realm, seen as the most beneficial, but not the most enjoyable. The human realm has enough suffering to make us want to leave samsara behind, but not so much that we're consumed completely by pain. So we can be aware enough and motivated enough to get out. Not so for the realms above us. Everything is really, really good up there. There may be one or two of these realms depending on the Baba Chakra, but they're the realms of heavenly beings, gods and demigods. They war with each other, they feast, they have all the imaginable pleasures that exist. Huge bliss, long lives. But all these realms for Buddhism are still inside the wheel. Even the gods eventually fall down again. So we should recall the three poisons and remember the goal is to get out, not to stay inside these places or move up in rebirths. Now, these places as realms are partly spatial, real places, and partly psychological states of mind. Maybe even in our lives we spent time in hell and in heaven, but we're always passing away from one to the other and we can't hold on to any of them. In this way, the Baba Chakra is both a map of literal places we go and at the same time a description of how we experience being alive. Next, there are 12 panels on the outer edge of the wheel that depict the Buddhist theory of
So
cause
if you're just now
and effect,
tuning in, what we
essentially
listening to right
explaining
now
in great
is
depth how karma works and why it is that our
It's the
actions
map
continue to beget more suffering
of the
and more
world, the
rebirth.
spiritual world, as told by the Buddha. And I'm listening to this to give us a reference or give a personal reference to you all about where you may be at in your lives.
This can get very complex, but the basic progression goes like this. We live in ignorance, and in our ignorance, we start to discern reality as separate from ourselves. We define body and mind, consciousness, and our senses, and we use them to interpret the world around us. Through that interpretation, we become focused on feeling, and then on desire, and then on attachment to the things we want or don't want, the objects of our desire. Because of this attachment, we try to make the world give us what we want, and this makes change, birth and rebirth. Then, death comes, and the whole cycle repeats again. The real idea here is that ignorance, the pig, he's at the root of why we're stuck in the wheel and why karma happens at all. Finally, we're zoomed out enough to see the wheel in general again, and we see that great figure holding the wheel. It's fierce and monstrous with 3 eyes and a gnawing mouth. This is a demon or sometimes a god, but it represents impermanence. All those realms, karma, birth, death, all of it, everything in samsara is always changing and impermanent. Everything we have goes away. The demon represents all that fear and pain of loss. Everything you make, everything you have will be gone, it says. I'll eat it all. So it seems a bit hopeless, but there's more outside the wheel. There's a moon, a great white circle, something pure and perfect, untouched by the figure or the wheel. And there's a Buddha or a Bodhisattva pointing to the moon, telling us that we can go there. The moon is nirvana, the opposite of the wheel, the purified samsara, and Buddhism through the Buddha is the path that brings us out. By studying the Buddha's teachings, meditating and practicing the middle way, we can rid ourselves of the attachment and ignorance that's at the root of all this suffering, and ultimately leave that wheel of samsara behind. So we can see that this is a map. We're stuck in samsara, but somewhere outside that is another way of being, something so far out that it's not like anything in our experience. There are literal places shown here, the realms, and yet they also correspond to psychological and moral states. This is a map of our experience of reality, and it ultimately tries to tell us where we should be trying to go. Cosmographic maps like these aren't for the faint of heart, but to me, they seem like such a great repository of wisdom and ways to understand how our ancestors have seen the world. And even though these things might be a little strange to us now, maybe there's something we can learn from them. I'm really grateful that we have them and that we can still understand what they're trying to describe to us. Buddhism sometimes evokes the image of crossing a great sea to reach nirvana. Nirvana is something beyond, something far beyond the place we are now, and yet it's here in each moment if we could just let go of our ignorance. Can we find peace? Maybe we can. With the Bhava Chakra as our guide, at least we have a map. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, you might like another one I did on another map that's more conceptual and spiritual.
So, the reason I showed us this is because I wanted us to kind of pick it out for ourselves or listen to someone speak about something other than just a life situation, and it gave some really great clarity to where we are, where we could be at in our lives as far as our suffering goes, as far as what we want to change, what we want to do, and different figures and representations of it. If you ask me, it gave it a clearer picture on how to deal with some of the problems I might have or I might be faced with in my life. So, used to listening to a Christian viewpoint, to be honest. That getting that extra view of it is actually refreshing. Alright, so as I go hide back here and try to beat the storm. Alright, come on. Where he at? That was whack. He ain't had to sneak up on me. I got something for that. I'm gonna just keep trying to go get the them gloves, cause that's really all I want to do is beat that quest. All right, so like I was saying, I'm just trying to give us a reference other than the Christian reference, the oh well, I'm doing this and I graduated from high school and I'm about to go to college type reference on where you at in your life. That's simple. That's easy. Alright, so let's look up lives of great men and women. Because how did they figure it out? Let's listen to Steve Jobs talk for a second.
There's like a gazillion hours of me on the internet. In almost every case, I'm talking about the universe, black holes.
Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life. And 17 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition.
I like that.
After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them.
Exactly.
If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards.
Yes, sir.
So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path.
Yes, sir.
And that will make all the difference.
Yes, sir.
My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the Valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle. My third story is about death.
Imagine being such a master manifester that anything you choose to want, you end up getting.
This woman is an anomaly.
Reagan Hillier. People call her the queen of manifesting.
Reagan Hillier, a rags to riches story like...
When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something.
Exactly.
Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there.
Right.
And yet, death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary.
Yes, sir.
Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Y'all give me a second. I'm going to put us on something else. I think that was very, very, very interesting to listen to. I'm going to just throw something else on.
I had a purpose. I wanted to be one of the best basketball players to ever play. And anything else that was outside of that lane, I didn't have time for.
There's a quote from one of my English teachers at Lower Merion named Mr. Fisk. He had a great quote that said, "Rest at the end, not in the middle." And that's something I always live by. You know, I'm not going to rest. I'm going to keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll figure these things out as we go, right? And you just continue to build that way. So I try to live by that all the time.
At what age did that goal become crystal clear?
I made that deal with myself at 13 years old.
At 13 years old?
13 years old. That's the deal I made.
Crystal clear about it?
Crystal clear.
And where did inspiration come from?
The love of the game. The love of the game, the challenge. Like I would watch Magic play, I'd watch Michael play, and I would see them do these unbelievable things, and I'd say, you know, can I get to that level?
Isn't it great when two good things come together, like the security of dental implants and the affordability of denture?
That level? I don't know, but let's find out. Let's find out. And so that curiosity to see where I could push this thing led me down that path, I think.
I had a summer where I played basketball when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and here I come playing, and I don't score 1 point the entire summer. Not a free throw, nothing, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points. And I remember crying about it and being upset about it, and my father just gave me a hug and said, listen, whether you score 0 or score 60, I'm gonna love you no matter what.
Wow.
Now that is the most important thing that you can say to a child. Because from there, I was like, okay, it gives me all the confidence in the world to fail. I have the security there. But to hell with that, I'm scoring 60. And from there, I just went to work. I stayed with it. I kept practicing. I think that's when the idea of understanding a long-term view became important, because I wasn't going to catch these kids in a week. I wasn't going to catch them in a year, right? So that's when I sat down and said, okay, this is going to take some thought, all right? What do I want to work on first? All right, shooting. All right, let's knock this out. Let's focus on this. Half a year, 6 months, do nothing but shoot. All right, after that, all right, creating your own shot. And you focus. So I started creating a menu of things. When I came back the next summer, I was a little bit better. I scored.
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't much, but I scored.
This is 12, 13.
12, 13. And then 14 came around, back half of 13, 14 years old, and then I was just killing everyone. And it happened in 2 years. And I wasn't expecting it to happen in 2 years, but it did, because what I had to do was work on the basics and the fundamentals. Well, they relied on their athleticism and their natural ability. And because I stick to the fundamentals, it just caught up to them. And then my body, you know, my knees stopped hurting. I grew into my frame, and then it was game over.
Wow. Were you always competitive from the day you were born? You were super competitive?
Competitive with things that I participate in. So I'll put it to you this way. So like, you know, basketball for me was the most important thing. So everything I saw, whether it was TV shows, whether it was books I read, people I talked to, everything was done to try to learn how to become a better basketball player. Everything. And so when you have that point of view, then literally the world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft. So at 13 years old, I had a kill list. And so, you know, they used to do these rankings. It was Street and Smith basketball rankings. And I was nowhere to be found because I was like 6'4", scrawny, like 160 pounds soaking wet. So I was like 57 on the list. And so I would look at 56, 55, all the way up to number 1, who these players are, what club teams they played for. So when we go on an AAU travel circuit, I got to hunt them down, right? And so that became my mission in high school, is to check off every other person, all those 56 other names, hunt them down and knock them down. So when we played at 13, I would size you up and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. How do you approach the game? Are you silly about it? Are you goofy about it? Are you good at it just because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else, right? Or is there actually thought and skill that you put into it, right? And when I'd play to my weaknesses. I always work on the things during those games that I was weak at. Left hand, pull-up jump shot, post game, right? So I have a strategy.
What was really your work ethic like, and for how long did you stay disciplined?
Well, I mean, every day. I mean, since 20 years. I mean, it was an everyday process and trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses. For example, jumping ability. Now, my vertical was a 40, it wasn't a 46 or a 45. My hands are big, but they're not massive, right? So you got to figure out ways to strengthen them so your hands are strong enough to be able to palm a ball and do the things that you need to do. Quickness, I was quick, but not insanely quick. I was fast, but not ridiculously fast, right? So I had to rely on skill a lot more. I had to rely on angles a lot more. I had to study the game a lot more. And but I enjoyed it though. So like from the time I can remember when I started watching the game, I studied the game and it just never changed.
What does losing feel like to you?
It's exciting.
Why is it exciting?
Because it means you have different ways to get better. There's certain things that you can figure out that you can take advantage of, right? Certain weaknesses that were exposed that you need to shore up, right? So it was exciting. I mean, it sucks to lose,
right.
But the hardest thing is to face that stuff. That's a really, really tough challenge.
How did you get mentally and emotionally so strong where it doesn't bother you?
Well, you got to look at the reality of the situation. Like for me, it's not, you kind of got to get over yourself, right? And then after that, it's okay, well, why did those air balls happen?
Hey, what's up, Oh?
Got it. I didn't have the legs. So you look at the shot, every shot was online. Every shot was online, but every shot was short, right? I got to get stronger. I got to train differently. The weight training program that I'm doing, I got to tailor it for an 82-game season so that when the playoffs come around, my legs are stronger and that ball gets there. So I look at it with rationale and say, okay, well, the reason why I shot air balls is because my legs aren't there. I go, well, next year they'll be there.
You have to do the hard stuff and watch that game and study that game to not make those mistakes over and over again just because you weren't brave enough to face it. So you got to deal with it.
Face it.
Got to deal with it. Face it, learn from it. You don't want to have that feeling again, do you? Right? So you got to really study it, face it, and not to say you'll win the next time you face it, but at least you'll give yourself a better chance.
Yeah.
It's an obsessiveness that comes along with it. You want things to be as perfect as they can be, understanding that nothing is ever perfect. But the challenge is try to get them as perfect as they can be. And what can you do? It's in your control. So control what you can.
You have this mindset, but how did you develop that? I don't know if that's what you call the Mamba mindset, but how did you develop that? And when did it start?
It started in middle school and high school. Because a lot of the kids that I was playing against were inner city kids. Yeah. And so they're looking at me as if, okay, this kid's soft. They felt like they could try to be physical or try to intimidate me and do all this other stuff, which they couldn't, right? But now I'm saying, okay, well, you're trying to attack me. How am I going to attack you? How can I mentally figure out ways to break you down? How can I show you that, no, I have the edge, right? And so that's when it first started for me, is figuring out how to get the upper hand on an opponent that way.
And what would you do to mentally break people down then?
One of the things I would do is, while everybody would be at the cafeteria, work, eating and doing all sort of stuff, I'd just go back to the gym. And so that was my way of showing them, yeah, I may be from the suburbs, but you're not going to outwork me.
Wow.
Like, I see a lot of players take vacations with other players that are close friends. And we'll just take vacations just to take vacations, or just hang out just to hang out. Like, I'm not I never did that. But
Why,
it was a
why not
choice.
though? Why didn't you do that?
Well, because when I retire, I didn't want to have to say, I wish I would have done more. I don't want that.
When I weighed 300 pounds, I made a sacred commitment that I was going to lose the weight. I went to the gym 6 days a week, 90 minutes a day. 45 minutes of weights, 45 minutes of cardio. Cut my calories, I cut my fat, and at the end of 18 months of this, 702 hours in the gym, I still had a 46-inch waist. I was still fat, and I could max out most of the machines. As I'm recording this, I have exceptionally strong bones, and I'm lean and very muscular, but not hypermuscular. 20 minutes a week is my exercise routine, using all of the hacks in here. How could I go from weighing 300 pounds down to 8.6% body fat? It turns out it wasn't from the exercise, it was from nutrition. If I could do this as a 300-pound computer hacker who couldn't touch his toes, who had 3 knee surgeries before age 25, and I can do this on 20 minutes of exercise a week, imagine what would happen if you learned a little bit more about how to eat and you spent less time at the gym than you do now with the right tools. If you combine nutrition with fitness, magic can happen. What would happen if you had more energy and you had more results at the same time? Today, the world needs people who are healthy, high energy, strong, with time on their hands to do good work. That's you.
It's Pod's biggest sale of the summer. Save up to 25% on moving and storage for a limited time. And see why Pods has been trusted with over 6 million moves. But don't wait. Use promo code BIG25 to save. Visit pods.com today.
I played games with the flu. I played games with 102-degree fever, man. We had a game against Toronto in 2000, and Vince was tearing the league up. My back was jacked. So I would be in the layup line like, okay, there's a lot of days where you can rest and recover. Today ain't one of them. Your back can bother you any other day. That ain't bothering me today. He gonna have to see me today.
You're playing against the Golden State Warriors. Score is 107.
Yeah, let's go, boy.
You guys are close.
Let's
getting
go,
into the
boy.
playoffs.
Ain't got the victory.
You know exactly
ain't got a
what
crown
happens
win.
in the game. You
All
go
right.
up.
Now I'm
you're
sorry,
about
I
to
was
take your
focused.
shot,
I was
and
in
then
the
all of a
zone just
sudden,
now.
Boom.
Yeah.
Achilles happens, right? Friend of mine, Nima.
Sorry, I
he
couldn't
is here just to listen
talk.
to you. He played ball. And he told me, he says, Patrick, I don't think you understand. He says, when I tore my Achilles in high school.
All right. So let me go to these comments. I appreciate everybody who watched on TikTok, Poppin' Bins. Appreciate you for sticking around. Is Fortnite still in its cars phase? Nah, it's not in the cars phase. Mimo 4000, it's out of that right now. But I'm still using my card when I get on there. All right. Zanita67 said the real thing that he is saying is he wanted something and he worked hard on it. He looked at himself and said, what can I do to make me the best me I can be? You know not everyone is rooting for you, and some of the closest people to you are rooting against you. Always bet on yourself and go and make it happen. So, I completely agree with what you said too, as by the way, Zanita67. So, as well as he looked at where he was at and on his map. And remember, that's what we're talking about, navigating our lives. They're looking at where they're at on their map and saying, where is it I want to be now? All right. And they're going to those places by the things that they're doing in preparation of where they're going to be. Those are the steps they're taking to get there. And then as they look back, they're able to say that every single step was a step in the direction that they wanted to be in. or in the direction that they wanted to go and who it is they wanted to become. That's what Steve Jobs was saying, and that's what Kobe is saying. They didn't look at just where they were at to get to where they were going, but it was the major step in getting to where they wanted to be. They had to say, I am here. This is my map. Where am I? Okay, I got this ability. I got this skill. I have this, and this. This is where I'm at. And then that is where I want to be. So, let's get some more audio up under our belt that we can listen to. I'm going to jump off of Kobe real quick. And I got me a victory, too.
Today.
All right. So I still got lives of great men and women. All right. Let's listen to this one. It's 43 minutes, so we may not listen to the whole thing. But
no offense, but if
the title is "These Lessons Are Requirements in Life, Not Choices."
Best passive income investments in today's economy.
Never go to the past. Not for happiness, not for justification, not for excuses. The world is what it is. You are what you are.
Let me start that over.
Never go to the past. Not for happiness, not for justification, not for excuses. The world is what it is. You are what you are. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Of all the liars in the world, sometimes the worst are our own fears. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. You don't have to burn books to destroy a culture. Just get people to stop reading them. Don't look back. You are not going that way. Practice self-compassion. We are all human, and everyone makes mistakes. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
I like that one.
Make and keep anything. Don't look back. You are not going that way. Practice self-compassion. We are all human, and everyone makes mistakes. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. Make and keep friends with the people you want to emulate, not the people that you think will be most likely to accept you. The people you associate with will shape your future. Start saving you money. Don't spend it on homes you can't afford, fancy cars, and running your credit cards to the max. In the end, you'll be much happier. There are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. It's no use wasting time worrying what other people think about you. No one is thinking about you. The world is a tragedy to those who feel, but a comedy to those who think. Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason why so few engage in it. There are only 3 events in a man's life: birth, life, and death. He is not conscious of being born. He dies in pain and he forgets to live. Manage your mood, because if it does not obey, then it commands. In order to understand the world, one has to turn away from it on occasion. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. True love never has a happy ending because there is no ending to true love.
Yes, sir.
Life is like a book. Some chapters are sad, some are happy, but all are necessary for the full story.
Yes, sir.
Take good care of your health. Without health, nothing will matter. No amount of money can bring you joy if you are suffering. Always move in your own direction, not according to society, friends, or family. What other people think of you is none of your business. It is not a lack of time, it is a lack of priority. Through discipline comes freedom.
Yes, sir.
To know your enemy, you must become your enemy.
I'm going to show you a way to potentially make money by pairing Amazon with the power of AI without ever selling physical products. And I promise you.
Children learn by an adult's example, not by their words. Never overlook contempt. When someone views you with contempt and talks to you like you're beneath them, they will likely do you harm. Whether relationally, socially, or physically, remove that person from your life. Life is far from over, but it's very short too. If you want to do something, don't delay. But don't sacrifice what you want for what you want right now. This is your world. Shape it or someone else will.
Yes, sir.
The best thing I ever did was stop telling people what's going on in my life. Be proud of how hard you are trying. At your lowest, you realize a lot. No one is too busy. It's only a matter of priorities. Never force, don't beg, and don't chase. Learn how to change a flat tire on your vehicle. If you don't value your time, neither will others. The pain you feel today will be the strength you feel tomorrow. Don't put off important medical checkups. Time heals almost everything. Give it time. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. If it keeps you happy, keep it quiet. If nobody helps you, do it alone.
Yes, I like that one too. What people think of you is none of your business.
A lot of people don't deserve it.
Yes.
You can't go back
That's why
and
I'm
change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. If you don't ask, you don't get. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Life isn't fair, but it's still good. He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life. Never take the responsibility that does not belong to you. Have firm boundaries and be discerning about who you let into your life. Buy real estate, land, anything you can afford. The less possessions you own, the happier and less burden you will have in your life. Don't leave someone to teach them a lesson. Leave because you learned yours. When in doubt, just take the next small pause. Leave someone to teach them a lesson. Leave because you are learning about who you let into your life. Buy real estate, land, anything you can afford. The less possessions you own, the happier and less burden you will have in your life. Don't leave someone to teach them a lesson. Leave because you learned yours. When in doubt, just take the next small step. Be careful who you marry, and even more careful who you have kids with. Slow down and realize that
really
mistakes are essential to learning anything.
Confirmation for me. Yes.
Get yourself together before you get any older. The older you are, the harder it is to change. No one cares except family. Keep busy. It's the cheapest kind of medicine there is on this earth, and one of the best. Your friends' problems become your problems. The smaller your circle, the less bullshit you have to deal with. When you were born, you cried, and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries, and you rejoice.
Yes, sir.
A bad phase of your life can start at any time. Genius is 1% talent and 99% hard work. The noblest work of God? Man. Who found it out? Man. Save a little money every week or month. Nothing gives you happiness like a financial buffer, believe it or not.
Right.
Happiness is not something you postpone for the future. It is something you design for the present.
Yes, sir.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around, you could miss it. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Do your best and trust the process. The harder you work, the luckier you will get. Your heart will tell you where to go. Your head will guide you there safely. Use one without the other, and you'll get lost. Throw off your worries when you throw off your clothes at night. Often the lies that are believed become the truth. If you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not to people or things.
Yes, sir.
Picture this. You're sitting at home alone watching YouTube videos, wondering why you can't find the motivation to do the things you need or want to do or change in the ways you'd like. Even thinking about your mental health and all that it entails sounds exhausting, too difficult, not worth it. I've been there, even as a therapist, often as a therapist. It doesn't matter what your profession is, how much money you make, or whether you'd like to admit it or not, your mental health has, is, and will continue to affect every decision you make in life and everything you experience.
Hope y'all heard her.
Therapy, you know that.
Never give up on something you really want. It's difficult to wait, but it's more difficult to regret.
Yes, sir.
You can't do big things if you are distracted by small things. Focus on what you can control and let go of what you cannot. A clever person solves a problem. A wise person avoids it.
Yes, sir.
Most so-called failures are only temporary defeats. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself.
Oh my gosh. That's the one.
Believe become the truth. If you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not to people or things. Never give up on something you really want. It's difficult to wait, but it's more difficult to regret. You can't do big things if you are distracted by small things. Focus on what you can control and let go of what you cannot. A clever person solves a problem. A wise person avoids it. Most so-called failures are only temporary defeats. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself.
Yes, sir. That's
It's
my
not
guy.
what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Intuition is something that is ahead of accurate knowledge.
Yes, sir. Okay, got you.
One can always be kind to people about whom one cares nothing.
Right.
Nothing costs so much in life as illness and ignoring an illness. Everything outside of this moment is just imagination. Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. Stay strong. Even when things begin to fall apart, stay strong. I would rather be a swineherd, understood by the swine, than a poet misunderstood by men. Fear doesn't exist anywhere except in the mind. You'll never be sorry for telling someone you love them. Do it before it's too late. You can tell more about a person by what he says about others than you can by what others say about him. To get married means to halve your rights and double your responsibilities. You will be pulled down out of jealousy. Don't get surprised. It's normal.
All right.
Most of the time, you have to
right
swallow
now.
the pain and
I
learn
gotta
to grow up by yourself.
Get me some 2K in with my boy. All right, so I'm gonna pause those. Those was really interesting. Well, not interesting. Those was really good to hear. It's like my soul just took a bath in wisdom. Just cleanse my whole soul with some wisdom. Let me hop over here to 2K real quick. So what we talking about, if you are just now tuning in, is life's map. You are here, and where are you on your life's map? We all know there's birth, of course, and we all know there's death. Then there's a whole bunch of stuff in between. Where are you in that stuff in between? Because you're not dead, and you're definitely not just being born if you're watching this. So those things was kind of good to hear. Let me see. Let's see what 19 Keys got to say. I'm always on 19 Keys because 19 Keys. Let's see what he's talking about.
Imagine being such a master manifester that anything you choose to want, you end up.
What does a map sofa at 100% look like? Once you write it down and you map that out, you can see what percentage of that you live in. This high level club is going to be by far the best project, best community, best tribe, best anything that I've put together.
Who's the top 3? If you did nothing for the last 10 years and you come and take Drake down, you the top guy.
Kendrick can outdress Drake. I don't think he got more women. Like, what they got to do with anything?
And these blogs are important, and everything that we film is important. So high level world is everything right now, and that is the coaching.
Like, she can do her own show, but if she gonna be here, we might as well like literally just have like FAQs. Yeah. So it's just like a little tech with X, so that we can drop shit on a high level page like daily. We can even do like live TV type shit. It's just like.
Let me fast well.
So I'm thinking literally like one question. Yeah, I mean per day. The designer lady, can you send her over those silver panels that I was talking about? Designer lady. That came in. That's what the show before.
Her show. And well, it's not about like you just coming up with some fluff. And it's about aesthetic, only the highest quality.
Be a candidate, you know what I'm saying, for doing content with it. She wants you to get on her show, and if you're good with it, I want to set that up this week.
Yeah, I think that's so good.
If I was living at 100%, this is going to be something that I want high-level club members to do as well. I first started off with like clothing, like what will my life look like at 100%? What type of clothes would I wear? Right? What would the fabrics be like? Everything would be tailored, custom. right? Change based on the seasons, based on the color science that I should be operating with. I wouldn't go shopping. I would only wear clothes that I've made. It'd be a mix of luxury, military style with cultural aesthetic, only the highest quality, right? And then you would really kind of like have a vision of how would that look, starting from clothes just because it's a visual aesthetic, right? How would it go from, and you can be as detailed as you want to, right? What would my money look like if I was living at 100%? And it's about also being honest as well. It's not about like you just coming up with some fluff. For every goal you have to have something that, you know, correlated that you would give in order to receive it. So we have, that'd be off lectures, courses, community views, appearances, books, newspaper, coffee table, newspaper, retreats, commissions from funnel system products, a land compound where I host camps, fashion line, luxury like Prada Couture meets Asiatic style and influence, a network of people that is funneling through commissions on the back end of their programs that we're funneling to, a whole world built out, right? And really, once you get from every category, so you can go to the way that you eat, the way that you look, what does myself at 100% look like? Like, what's my greatest body? We settle, right, throughout life. We're not really going at 100%. Like, how would my posture be? How would I walk, right? I'm muscular, buff. Not only that, I got great mobility, right? Strong as hell. I have to be my greatest version. Now, everybody may not live that, but once you write it down and you map that out, you can see what percentage of that you're living. Are you living 50% to that? Are you living 70%? Are you living 100% of that? Right? And then the beautiful thing about it is once you reach those levels, your perspective may change and your 100% looks like something else. But for me, living at 100% is really getting people to visualize their life in all areas so that they can master every area of life. And that's something that I want everybody to do. Everybody has to sit down and what is my life look at 100%?
Staying around.
You feel me? And now you get to see how far you are from really living at your edge and living at your peak versus living at your baseline. And I think most people are just living at their baseline. And I don't want to live on my baseline. I want to be in a high-level club. So from here, I was talking about I had went and got me some Vanta Black fabric.
Joining in,
so
Demon
this is
Slayer.
the darkest fabric in the world, so-calledly. You know what I'm talking about? And I had an idea that I wanted to wrap it around in this, right? I was going to wrap it around in this fabric. Let
me get one more.
You know what's in your cheap protein powder? Well, here to tell us is all-natural fitness athlete Paul Sklar.
All right, let's see what we've got. Sucralose, artificial flavors, soy lecithin, ion charged protein blend. That's not good.
Nobody wants to be poor, but everybody has the opportunity. There's so many men that don't want to be poor that have not done 100% of everything they can to change their circumstances, and that I know true. Most of the issues with most men is mental engineering. The way you design, the way you think. And so many people are comfort corrupt in their old ways that they're not willing to learn and change and do something new. And ain't nobody supposed to feel sorry for them. If you are alive today, if you listening to this today, you can make a decision right now. Man, I'm about to start a new routine. I'm about to get up and start doing my push-ups. Then I'm gonna go stop, and then I'm gonna learn something every day, and I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna create a plan, and I'm gonna create a new vision to become a new man, which means I'm gonna become a new mind, which means I'm gonna change the way I think, which changes your actions. You understand me? Yeah, young niggas now. I'm not talking about young niggas. First of all, somebody say young niggas now. Listen, I'm not talking about them. I say young, old, original guys and young guys. I'm not talking about nigga culture. We know nigga culture is ignorant and selfish. So anything dealing with niggas is supposed to be ignorant and selfish. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those who don't consider themselves to be. And when they see somebody doing something constructive, positive, or productive, which is not nigga, then they have a responsibility to help and assist.
You having a real conversation. I mean, as always, and let us do highlight that even in nigga culture is being specified to them that they pass torches. And in Atlanta in particular, they have spotlighted this culture because their torch passes. There's gatekeepers here, but in the hip-hop Atlanta community, they say that they have a very fruitful relationship with the OGs because they passed the torch, and at least they pointed the way. And there's an understanding that there's a continuum to the job that's being done to get the city lit and get the respect. So when it comes to, let's say, you know, the realm that we operate in, it's a different dynamic, you know what I'm saying, as you can see and as you can attest, because I don't think initially the respect or the acknowledgement, right? Acknowledgement is a big thing, and the lack of acknowledgement will make somebody very sour to their predecessors, you know what I'm saying, to the people that are coming after them. Right. They're like, nah, I'm not finished here. It's like, nigga, your runners up. Like, you gotta, you feel me? You have to impanel somebody else to complete the job that you have not done, and there's power in that. We were never taught that as a community, because a celebrity is identity driven, it's individualistic, right? And everybody lost sight of the mission, and the mission is supposed to be bigger than the individual. But social media has told you that you got to build a brand, you got to be an individual, you feel me? And it's all about you. And that ideology, for whatever reason, has also seeped into, you know, liberation, if you will, into consciousness. You feel me? And I mean, I can identify where it started at, but I ain't gonna do that on this live. But
you know, we appreciate brothers like yourself and individuals that do it, and that's what I was trying to tell people. I'm not talking about everybody was in the comments like I am talking about the individuals that they know, but I'm talking about the culture as a whole. And all the time, all the time that I'm speaking, not most of the time, I'm always speaking about the whole thing of it, the holistic aspect of it. I'm never talking about, yo, you got an old man down the street that's giving you some game. I'm not talking about that. Y'all know I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what we call this industry, right? And there are multiple industries, but the culture of the way we create industries is a gatekeeper culture. Right. It's not a torch passer culture, right? So I was explaining this like,
it's right.
You know,
he right though.
Sometimes you can have the excuse, well, nobody know who you are, and this is what, you know, and I want to put that out there because I don't want the young cats to get, you know, if you have this expectation of understanding culture already, then you don't have an expectation, right, of things that won't happen, right? When I look at the position that I'm in now, and you know, culture. And I explain, you know, culture is just a part of ethnicity, right? And this is something that I talked about too, Blue, the other day, is people don't understand the difference between race and ethnicity. Because we talk about our race as if it's our ethnicity, right? Because there are so many people that is within the African race, the Asiatic race, so-called black race, right? Our Native American race. But we all have different ethnicities, right? So we have different ethnic backgrounds. Our language, our religion, our customs, our beliefs are all different. So when they say diversity is the biggest trick on the planet Earth, because they say, well, you know, we're doing this for black men or we're doing this for black people, but there's only a certain subset of the black race who has a particular ethnicity, right, that you often see in positions. This is the reality. So they're not saying the whole, we're saying that you have qualifying factors. You can be black, but you have to fit in this ethnic background in order for us to consider you. So I know that my ethnic background, because we got to remember, ethnicity deals with religion, language, customs, beliefs, and geographical location. So I know from my ethnic background, you can't show me, probably not one, at least not 5, that have been given opportunities by the status quo whatsoever. None.
All right, I'm pause 19 keys right there for a second. We coming up on our last 30 minutes, and I want to kind of bring this home by me talking for a second and getting into why I chose the title to be what it was. So when you find out, where you are in life or on life's journey, that's half of the battle right there. Now, it comes and it goes. That realization comes and it goes, and to me, it's not one that is ever gonna stay in that, and it's not one that you ever want to stay. It should be fleeting. The reason why is because it keeps you growing. Once you figure out where you're at in the journey, you can see how much longer it's going to take you to get to where it is that you're going. Me that. All right, there we go. And so stopping and looking at it, you may not. I can't talk and play. I don't think. You may not look at it right at every single moment, but there are those moments where you have like sort of an epiphany where you're like, hey, this is where I'm at. Maybe like graduations or the birth of your first child. Those types of things give you a real clear picture of where you're at. So I'm gonna get one more 19 keys. Well, let's just get it general. Let's see what C.S. Lewis talking about.
The pineal gland has tiny little cilia, hair-like extensions all around it. When you hold your breath and you...
Have you ever wondered what it'd be like to move through life undisturbed by the chaos around you? To stand firm as a rock amidst crashing waves, unshaken and untroubled. This power lies dormant within each of us, waiting to be awakened. Consider the last time something truly bothered you. Perhaps it was a cutting remark from a colleague, an unexpected bill, or a sudden change in plans. How did it affect your day, your mood, your interactions with others? Now envision a version of yourself that could face these same challenges with a serene smile, completely unfazed. This isn't about becoming cold or unfeeling, rather. It's about developing an inner strength so profound that external circumstances lose their power over your peace of mind. It's about cultivating a calm so deep that it becomes your natural state, regardless of what life throws your way. The cost of being easily bothered is immense, yet often overlooked. It robs us of our joy, our focus, and our potential. When we allow every little thing to ruffle our feathers, we become like leaves in the wind, tossed about by forces beyond our control. Our energy dissipates, our relationships suffer, and our goals remain frustratingly out of reach. But there's another way. A path less traveled, but infinitely more rewarding. It's the path of unshakable calm, of inner peace so profound that it radiates outward, touching everything and everyone around us. Think of the people you admire most, and chances are they possess this quality of equanimity. They face life's ups and downs with a steady gaze and a calm demeanor. They're not superhuman. They've simply mastered the art of remaining untroubled in a troubled world. But this mastery isn't reserved for a chosen few. It's available to anyone willing to cultivate it, and the benefits are transformative. Imagine approaching your work with unwavering focus, undistracted by office politics or the fear of failure. Picture yourself navigating relationships with grace and understanding, no longer reactive to every perceived slight or disappointment. The freedom that comes with emotional resilience is unparalleled. It's the freedom to choose your responses rather than being at the mercy of your reactions. It's the power to shape your experience of life rather than being shaped by it. But how do we cultivate this inner strength? It begins with understanding the nature of disturbances. Most of what bothers us is, in truth, quite insignificant. We give power to trivial matters by our attention and emotional investment. The first step, then, is to shift our perspective. Consider the vastness of the universe, the brevity of our lives in the grand scheme of things. From this vantage point, how many of our daily irritations truly matter? This cosmic perspective doesn't diminish the importance of our lives. Rather, it liberates us from the tyranny of the trivial. Next, we must examine our attachments. Much of our distress comes from clinging too tightly to our expectations, our possessions, our self-image. When we loosen our grip, we create space for peace to enter. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. On the contrary, it allows us to engage more fully with life, unencumbered by the weight of our attachment. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece understood this well. They practiced negative visualization, regularly imagining worst-case scenarios, not to induce anxiety, but to appreciate the present and be prepared for any eventuality. By doing so, they cultivated a resilience that allowed them to remain calm in the face. But this equanimity isn't just about mental exercises. It's a way of being that permeates every aspect of our lives. It's about choosing, moment by moment, to remain centered regardless of external circumstances. It's about recognizing that our peace is too precious to be given away to every passing disturbance. This choice becomes easier with practice. Each time we resist the urge to react, we strengthen our inner resolve. Each moment we choose peace over agitation, we reinforce our commitment to unshakable calm. Over time, this becomes our default state, our natural way of being. The beauty of this practice is that it's self-reinforcing. As we cultivate inner peace, we begin to attract more peaceful circumstances. Our relationships improve as we respond to others with understanding rather than reactivity. Our work becomes more effective as we approach challenges with clear-headed focus rather than stress-induced panic. Moreover, this inner calm has a ripple effect. Just as anxiety and stress are contagious, so too is peace. By cultivating our own inner tranquility, we contribute to the calm of those around us. We become islands of peace in a sea of chaos, offering others a glimpse of what's possible. This isn't to say that the path is always easy. There will be moments when our resolve is tested, when the old patterns of reactivity threaten to reassert themselves. But with each test, we grow stronger. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to deepen our practice, to recommit to our inner peace. The key is consistency. Just as a musician must practice daily to master their instrument, we must practice equanimity daily to master our minds. This means being mindful in our everyday interactions, catching ourselves in moments of potential disturbance, and choosing a different response. It also means cultivating practices that support our inner calm. Meditation, for instance, is a powerful tool for developing mental clarity and emotional stability. Even a few minutes of quiet reflection each day can dramatically shift our baseline state of mind. Physical practices like yoga or Tai Chi can also be immensely helpful. These ancient disciplines teach us to unite body and mind, to find stillness in movement, and to maintain balance amidst change. They serve as practical metaphors for navigating life's challenges with grace and poise. But perhaps the most powerful practice is simply paying attention. By observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment, we create space between stimulus and response. In this space lies our freedom to choose, our power to remain untroubled regardless of circumstances.
No offense, but if you still think stocks, real estate, or crypto are the best passive income investments in today.
As we develop this capacity, we begin to see life's challenges differently. What once seemed like insurmountable problems become interesting puzzles to solve. What used to provoke anger or fear now elicits curiosity and compassion. We move from being victims of circumstance to authors of our experience. This shift in perspective is liberating. No longer do we feel at the mercy of external events. Instead, we recognize our power to shape our inner world, regardless of what's happening around us. This is true freedom, not the absence of challenges, but the ability to meet them with equanimity. Moreover, as we cultivate this inner strength, we become more effective in all areas of life. Our relationships deepen as we bring presence and understanding to our interactions. Our work improves as we approach tasks with focused attention rather than scattered anxiety. Our health benefits as we reduce the harmful effects of chronic stress.
That's tomorrow.
The path to unshakable calm is a journey of self-discovery. As we peel away layers of reactivity, we uncover the serene core of our being. We realize that peace isn't something to be attained, but rather uncovered. It's our natural state, obscured only by our habitual patterns of thought and emotion. This realization is profound. It means that we're not seeking something outside ourselves, but rather returning to our true nature. Every step on this path is a homecoming, a return to the peace that has always been within us. As we progress, we may find that things that once bothered us now barely register. The colleague's cutting remark becomes an opportunity for compassion. The unexpected bill becomes a chance to practice resourcefulness. The change in plans becomes an adventure rather than an annoyance. This doesn't mean we become passive or indifferent. On the contrary, we become more engaged with life, but on our own terms. We choose our battles wisely, investing our energy where it truly matters rather than squandering it on trivial irritations. The ultimate reward of this practice is a life well lived, a life characterized by peace, purpose, and presence, a life where we're fully alive to each moment, unencumbered by needless worry or pointless anger, a life where we can face whatever comes our way with courage, clarity, and calm. This is the power of unshakable calm. It's a power that lies dormant within each of us, waiting to be awakened. The journey to this awakening may not always be easy, but it is infinitely rewarding. For in cultivating this inner strength, we not only transform our own lives, but contribute to the peace and well-being of the world around us. As we move forward, let's explore practical ways to cultivate this inner strength, to develop the resilience that allows us to remain untroubled in a troubled world. For it is in the crucible of daily life that our commitment to peace is tested and as we venture further into the realm of unshakable calm, we find ourselves at the threshold of a profound transformation. The journey of cultivating inner strength is not unlike tending to a garden. It requires patience, dedication, and a willingness to get our hands dirty in the soil of our own minds. What does it mean to cultivate inner strength? It's the process of nurturing our ability to face life's challenges with grace and equanimity. It's about developing a broader perspective that allows us to see beyond the immediate disturbances and connect with a deeper sense of purpose.
Oh, they let me play him again. Hey, I'm back.
Consider
Let's see
for a
what
moment
happens.
the last time you felt truly strong inside. Not physically strong, but emotionally and mentally resilient. What was different about that moment? How did you perceive the world around you? Chances are you felt a sense of calm confidence, a feeling that no matter what happened, this is the essence of inner strength. It's not about becoming invulnerable or immune to life's difficulties. Rather, it's about developing the capacity to face those difficulties with courage, clarity, and composure. One of the key elements in cultivating this strength is developing a broader perspective. Too often we get caught up in the minutiae of daily life, allowing small irritations to dominate our emotional landscape. By stepping back and taking a wider view, we can begin to see these disturbances for what they truly are, temporary ripples on the surface of a much deeper and more expansive reality. This broader perspective doesn't come automatically. It's a skill that must be cultivated through conscious effort and practice. One way to do this is through regular reflection on the bigger questions of life. What truly matters to you? What are your core values? What kind of person do you want to be, regardless of circumstances? By regularly engaging with these deeper questions, we create a foundation of meaning and purpose that can sustain us through life's ups and downs. When we're clear about what truly matters, the small disturbances of daily life lose their power to derail. Another crucial aspect of developing inner strength is the integration of faith and reason. This isn't necessarily about religious faith, although that can certainly play a role for many. Rather, It's about cultivating a deep trust in life itself, balanced with the clear-eyed rationality to navigate its complexities. Faith, in this context, means trusting that there's a deeper order to life, even when we can't see it. It's the belief that our experiences, both positive and negative, have something to teach us. This faith gives us the courage to face uncertainty and change with an open heart. Reason, on the other hand,
what's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? If you're checking your phone, stop that. Instead, try this technique from the mind science pioneer Jose Silva. You see, when we're awake, our brain is at what is called beta, the waking level. But when we wake up in the morning, our brain is actually at a different altered state of mind called the alpha frequency. At the alpha frequency, you can command your body to heal itself. At the alpha frequency, you can program your subconscious to remove bad beliefs or even take on new habits. Some even suggest that at alpha, your intuition is stronger. This is the state that people often spend years of meditation.
Allows us to analyze our experiences objectively, to learn from them, and to make wise decisions. It's the tool we use to question our assumptions, challenge our fears, and find creative solutions to problems. When faith and reason work together, they create a powerful synergy. Faith gives us the courage to step into the unknown, while reason helps us navigate once we're there. This balance is essential for developing true inner strength. But how do we put these principles into practice? How do we move from understanding to embodiment? This is where practical exercises come into play. These are the daily practices that help us build our inner strength muscles. One powerful practice is mindfulness meditation. This doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. Even a few minutes each day of simply sitting quietly and observing your breath can have profound effects. As you practice, you'll begin to notice the constant chatter of your mind, the worries, judgments, and distractions that often drive our reactions. By observing these thoughts without getting caught up in them, you create space between stimulus and response. Peace. This space is where your power lies. It's where you can choose how to respond rather than simply reacting out of habit. Another valuable practice is the cultivation of gratitude. Each day, take a moment to reflect on what you're grateful for. This simple act can shift your entire perspective, helping you focus on the abundance in your life rather than perceived lacks or problems.
I hope y'all really got something out of this talk today, just with the reference of where you are in your life. Pull out your map, see where you came from. It'll give you a great reference on where you are. Your life's map is drawn, controlled, and dictated by you in as much capacity as you can get consciously. We heard Kobe Bryant speak today just about where it is he came from and who it is we know him as now today. My messages for today is, no matter where you are in your life, you are here. So we'll finish listening to the rest of that. I'm going to play a couple more games and then I'm going to get up out of here for the day. We got about like 5 minutes left. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Yes, I am here.
Enhancing your overall sense of self-control and capability. Practices like yoga or Tai Chi, which integrate physical movement and mindfulness, can be particularly powerful. These disciplines teach us to maintain calm and balance even as we move through challenging postures. A perfect metaphor for navigating life's difficult grace. As you engage in these practices, you'll likely encounter obstacles. Old habits reacting may resurface. You might find yourself slipping back into past worry or anger. This is normal and expected. But key is not to berate yourself when this happens, but to gently redirect. Remember, cultivating inner strength is a journey. Each challenge you face is an opportunity to deepen your practice, to recommit to your path of growth and self-discovery. One common obstacle is the belief that inner peace becoming passive or indifferent. Nothing could be further from the truth. True inner strength allows you to engage more fully with life, not less. It gives you the courage to stand up for what's right, to pursue your goals with passion, and to love deeply without fear of loss. Another obstacle is the fast-paced nature of modern life.
Oh, my bad. I didn't mean to turn it all the way down. Let me turn it back up.
It can be challenging to find the time and space for inner work. This is where the practice of creating boundaries comes in, learning to say no to the non-essential. So, you can say yes to what truly matters is a crucial skill in cultivating inner strength. As you progress on this path, you may notice subtle shifts in how you perceive and interact with the world. Things that once seemed like major crises now appear as manageable challenges. People who used to irritate you might now evoke compassion. You may find yourself responding to difficult situations with a calm clarity that surprises even you. These changes don't happen overnight. They're the result of consistent practice of choosing again and again to respond with equanimity rather than reactivity. Each time you make this choice, you're reinforcing neural pathways of calm and resilience. Now, it's important to note that cultivating inner strength doesn't mean you will never feel negative emotions. Sadness, anger, fear, these are all natural parts of the human experience. The difference is that with inner strength, you're able to experience these emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You can acknowledge the feeling, learn from it if there's a lesson to be learned, and then let it go. This ability to process emotions in a healthy way is a key component of emotional intelligence, which is itself a crucial aspect of inner strength. As you develop this skill, you'll find that your relationships improve. You'll be better able to understand and empathize with others, to communicate clearly and compassionately, and to navigate conflicts with grace. Another powerful practice in cultivating inner strength is the art of reframing. This involves consciously choosing to view situations from a different perspective. For instance, instead of seeing a challenge as a threat, you might choose to see it as an opportunity for growth. This isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. Rather, it's about actively seeking the most empowering interpretation of events. As you cultivate this inner strength, you may find that your entire approach to life shifts. Instead of trying to control external circumstances, you focus on mastering your internal state. You realize that true power lies not in changing the world, but in changing how you perceive and respond to the world.
Anyway.
This shift in focus is liberating. No longer are you at the mercy of circumstances beyond your control.
I don't even want to play it no
Instead, you recognize that regardless of what's happening around you, you always have the power to choose your response. This is the essence of personal freedom. Moreover, as you develop this inner strength, you become a source of stability for others. In a world often characterized by chaos and uncertainty, your calm presence can be a beacon of hope. Without saying a word, you demonstrate the possibility of remaining centered amidst life's storms. Remember, the goal isn't to become some unattainable ideal of perfection. We're human, and we'll always have moments of weakness or reactivity. The aim is progress, not perfection. Each time you choose calm over chaos, peace over conflict, you're strengthening your inner resources. As we continue on this journey of cultivating inner strength, it's important to be patient with yourself. Just as a tree doesn't grow to its full height overnight, inner strength develops gradually over time. Trust the process. Celebrate small victories, and most importantly, be kind to yourself along the way. The path of inner strength is not always easy, but it is infinitely rewarding. With each step, you're not just changing your own life, but contributing to the peace and well-being of the world around you. For as you cultivate inner calm and resilience, you create a ripple effect that touches every... As we move forward, we'll explore how this inner strength translates into daily life. How does it affect our relationships, our work, our approach to challenges, How can we live in a way that reflects and reinforces this inner calm? These are the questions that will guide us as we continue our exploration of living a life untroubled by the chaos of the world. As we stand at the threshold of a life untroubled, the path ahead shimmers with possibility. The inner strength we've cultivated becomes the foundation upon which we build a life of profound peace and purpose. But what does it truly mean to live untroubled in a world that often seems designed to disturb our tranquility? Living untroubled isn't about escaping life's challenges or isolating ourselves from the world. It's about engaging fully with lived life, armed with the resilience and equanimity we've developed. It's about moving through the world with a sense of grace and ease, regardless of external circumstances. How would your life change if you could maintain your inner peace no matter what happened around you? How would you approach your relationships, your work, your dreams? The answers to these questions hold the key to unlocking a life of true freedom and fulfillment. One of the most profound effects of living untroubled is the ripple effect it creates in our relationships. When we cultivate inner peace, we naturally become a calming presence for others. Our interactions take on a new quality of depth and authenticity. We're no longer reacting from a place of insecurity or fear, but responding from a wellspring of inner strength. This shift in our way of being can transform even the most challenging relationships. Conflicts that once would have escalated into arguments now become opportunities for understanding and growth. We're able to listen deeply, to empathize genuinely, and to communicate with clarity and compassion. In our professional lives, this untroubled state manifests as unwavering focus and productivity. No longer distracted by petty office politics or consumed by work-related stress, we're able to pour our full energy and creativity into our tasks. We become problem solvers rather than problem dwellers, approaching challenges with a calm confidence that inspires those around us. But perhaps the most significant change occurs in our relationship with ourselves. As we learn to live untroubled, we develop a profound self-acceptance. We no longer feel the need to prove our worth or seek constant validation from others. Instead, we find a quiet confidence in who we are. Flaws and this self-acceptance doesn't mean we stop growing or improving. On the contrary, it provides a stable foundation from which we can pursue personal growth without the desperate striving that often characterizes self-improvement efforts. We're able to set goals and work towards them with passion and persistence, but without attaching our self-worth to the outcome. Living untroubled also changes our relationship with time. Instead of constantly rushing towards some future moment or dwelling on past regrets, we learn to inhabit the present fully. Each moment becomes an opportunity to experience life in its richness, and this presence allows us to find joy in the simple things: a beautiful sunset, a child's laughter, the taste of good food. We're no longer always chasing after the next big thing, but able to appreciate the abundance that exists in each. But what about when life throws us curveballs? How do we maintain our equanimity in the face of genuine hardship or tragedy? This is where the true test of our inner strength comes into play. When we face life's challenges from a place of inner calm, we're able to respond rather than react. Instead of being overwhelmed by fear or anger, we can approach difficulties with clarity and courage. We're able to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable obstacles. This doesn't mean we don't feel pain or sadness. Living untroubled isn't about suppressing our emotions or pretending everything is always fine. It's about being able to experience the full range of human emotions without being controlled by them. We can feel deeply while still maintaining our inner balance. In times of crisis, this inner strength becomes a lifeline. It allows us to stay centered when everything around us seems to be falling apart. From this center, we can make wise decisions, offer support to others, and find creative solutions to problems. Moreover, living untroubled changes our perception of what constitutes a problem in the first place. Many things that used to bother us now seem trivial in comparison to our inner peace. We develop a sort of emotional immunity to the minor irritations of daily life. This shift in perspective frees up an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy. Energy that we can then direct towards the things that truly matter to us. Our relationships, our passions, our personal growth, our contributions to the world. As we continue to live in this untroubled state, we may find that our very presence has a calming effect on those around us. Without saying a word, we demonstrate the possibility of remaining peaceful amidst chaos. This silent testimony can be more powerful than any sermon or lecture. In our families, we become a stabilizing force. Children, in particular, are highly attuned to the emotional states of adults
What
around.
we talked about today was navigating our lives, life's map. You are here. You're here. No matter where you at in as far as your career path, your children growing up, your education level, no matter what, you're here in this reality. So you can kind of go from that and measure it and see where you're at in those things that I just described. So thank you for tuning in again. This has been another episode of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Mann. This is DGTA TV. I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. I got stuff I gotta do. Gotta get ready to set up my new space to be hosting this show in and to be doing all my stuff. So I got a lot of work to do towards that. So y'all, I'm gonna holler at y'all next time, and I'll be back here tomorrow, same time but not the same place. Peace.